Breaking news to pass along to you right now. We are coming on the air at 5 a.m. this morning with some breaking news to pass along to you. 7 people are in the hospital after someone opened fire near Wall Street in downtown Orlando. I want to show you some video right now. This is video from Orange Avenue near the Wall Street sign. Orlando Police Chief Eric Smith says a fight started shortly before 2:30, and right after the clubs and bars closed, that's when someone in the fight pulled out a handgun and shot into the crowd.
This was a regular night downtown, but it was when all the clubs were dumping. So basically, it was the end of the night for all the nightclubs and bars downtown. So we had a very large crowd downtown in the streets when this fight broke out.
Police say the 7 people who were injured are expected to survive. I want to give you a live look right now on Wall Street, where police are still on the scene at this point in time. You can see that the area there is blocked off. Orange Avenue, at last check, still closed here in this area, in this proximity, as they continue to investigate. Right now, police are looking through video cameras in the downtown area. So far, a suspect has not been identified or arrested. If you know anything that could help police, call Crime Line at *** 8477. Our Jeff Allen will have a live report coming up on the news starting live at 6 a.m.
All right, and we're back at 7:25 with our Decision 2022 primary preview show for this Monday night. A referendum that's actually going to be on the November ballot could have an influence on next Tuesday's race for Orange County mayor. Spectrum News 13's Asher Wildman is on location in Maitland, where transportation troubles and taxes could be a driver on who might lead the county for the next 4 years. Asher, you're right there. Walk us through what you discovered today.
Ebeth, there are 4 candidates running for Orange County mayor. Currently, only one supports a penny sales tax increase that would go to mass transit. And we're talking about $600 million. That money would go towards Sunrail. It would go towards county roads, and it would also go towards more buses.
Waiting for the number 8 bus to get home, Orange County voter LaShonda Brown is already struggling with nearly everything she purchases costing more at the register.
Everything is going up. It's a price for everything. The cost of living here is already sky high.
LaShonda takes the bus because she currently does not have a car. Relying on public transportation to get around, she isn't too keen about spending what the county projects to be about an extra $340 a year if the penny sales tax is voted on in November.
That means now got to find a totally extra income so that I can afford to take public transportation.
The penny sales tax increase would generate an estimated $600 million a year. A little less than half that amount will go to increasing the total buses for lengths from 300 to 700. Of the 4 candidates running for county mayor, only now current Mayor Jerry Demings is in favor of the penny sales tax increase. Other mayoral candidates, Chris Messina, Tony Saab, and Kelly Semrad, are all against it. Mayor Demings is hoping with the tax increase, Sunrail can also benefit, with added stops in both directions, service to MCO, and adding service to nights and weekends. Matthew Narvez, who sometimes works an 11 to 7 schedule, would love to see more run times, because if he doesn't, he's waiting another hour until his next ride can come by.
You know, if I gotta stay late like a couple minutes over, I know I'm gonna miss the train anyway, then I might as well just stay late until, the next one comes by.
With no weekend service, Matthew has a tough time doing errands and getting around. Run times on Saturday and Sundays would be a big help.
Oh, like shopping and stuff. Like, I know my roommates have a car, so like sometimes I go shopping with them, but if I really am craving something, that's usually what I go through.
The penny sales tax has its pros and cons. Come November, we will find out who is willing to hop on board a potential increase and who doesn't want to see it go through.
If the penny sales tax is voted with approval by the Orange County voters, then $60 million annually would also go to help maintain the county roads. But also think of this, Beth, when Mayor Demings asked to put this on the ballot in front of his commission, it was actually pretty split, 4-3 in favor of getting this issue on the November ballot. So we got to wait and see how the voters react to it. Reporting live in Maitland tonight, Asher Wildman for Spectrum News.
This is something else that we do want to show you from back to Kissimmee. This is the effort to pull that vehicle out of the water. They are using a, I don't even know what kind of vehicle that is, but it's got huge tires. Let's watch this. This is happening right now
This is in Kissimmee.
This is that SUV that, if you were just joining us, we saw this SUV that ended up in that body of water or something. Greg Pallone just stood into the shot. Do we want to go to him? And Greg, you're there. Why don't you go ahead and narrate what you're seeing? You're there right now.
Yep. Yeah, we can set the scene for you, Eric. We've been here for about 15, 20 minutes once this driver decided to try to navigate these floodwaters off of Central. We're at the Polo Run apartment homes, and right now there's an effort to try to pull this vehicle out. It's an SUV. It's designed for off-road, but unfortunately this driver decided to drive over the grass, got stuck, then tried to move forward and was floating in the water here in the parking lot. Right now there's an effort with these winches of these Jeeps to try and get this vehicle out of here. The Kissimmee Police Department showed up here a moment ago in a boat and warned the driver and the passenger inside to get out of that vehicle. They said if the battery dies, they're not going to be able to get out of the vehicle, and they definitely have a risk of drowning. But here we are, real time, as the crowd is here. These residents at the Polo Run apartment homes are trying to cheer on these people to get this vehicle out. But again, a dangerous situation. This just is proof positive that even a vehicle, a 4x4 like this SUV designed for off-roading, can get stuck. And you can see the windshield wipers that are still going on the vehicle. So there is power to the vehicle. But right now they're having it looks like a tandem situation to try and get a couple of winches in here to pull this vehicle out. Everyone is safe. That is the good thing at this juncture. But again, you can see just how deep that water is in the parking lot here as it leads out to Central, which is totally flooded. John, really quick while we're waiting on them, let's turn around right there. That's that vehicle that we found when we arrived here about an hour or so ago. Been flooded out since, one resident said, since early in the morning. They were able to get that driver out. And if you look down the way to the left, John, you can see just how flooded out Central is down toward those homes there as you're getting toward the main drag. But again, this area is completely inundated. It essentially is a lake right now.
Of course, covering this alongside me and myself, we have been working diligently, even so much so just to kind of get everything together for this report. And Molly, I want to know that, I know as we learn new details about the Department of Agriculture investigation, the freefall incident, we're taking a close look at amusement ride safety. And I know you've been doing a lot of digging into this aspect. And of course, you spoke with a ride safety expert about rules and regulations meant to ensure safety on these rides.
Curtis, one big takeaway here, states vary widely when it comes to amusement ride safety, and actually Florida ranks toward the top according to several ride safety experts we've spoken with, but that should not necessarily be a comfort according to those experts. One I spoke with who's been working in the industry for nearly 30 years told me that there are some critical gaps in Florida's laws surrounding amusement ride safety.
The state of Florida had the tools. They had the standards. In my opinion, it was completely avoidable.
I would just love your expert opinion on anything we can glean from this video as far as what opportunities there are for improvement.
Operational safety consultant Brian Avery quite literally helps write the book on amusement ride safety standards as a member of the international committee that establishes them, ASTM F24. He's worked in the amusement industry for nearly 30 years with a focus on safety and risk management. He served as an expert witness and has been published in several industry safety manuals. Now he teaches in the University of Florida's Department of Sport Management. Avery noticed a safety hazard before 14-year-old Tyree Sampson even enters the frame in this security video.
They are in the ride envelope. Based on what I can, glean from this is that the ride is operational.
Avery says the two ride attendants on duty that night in March shouldn't have been inside that fencing area, so close to the drop tower ride while it was still running. That's a safety hazard for them, as well as the guests. In the rare case, something goes wrong.
What they gotta appreciate is that just because you see it come down softly each and every time, doesn't mean there's not going to be a day where the cables break on this thing or the hydraulics give out and it just goes bam to the ground and you're in the middle of it.
Avery says it's not just about these two individuals, but rather the training they did or did not receive.
Unfortunately, I think training in general in the state of Florida and the requirements associated with are sorely lacking.
Avery says Florida's statutory language about training is too vague. There's no requirement for how long it should last or even for attendants to read operation manuals for the ride they're running. The state's administrative complaint confirms freefall ride attendants were never provided a copy of the Drop Towers ride manual. It isn't long before Avery points out another problem, the lack of any signage indicating the ride's weight limit. That weight limit is specified in the ride's manual as 130 kilograms, which equals just over 286 pounds. That's nearly 100 pounds under what Tyree weighed, according to the state's administrative complaint. But the ride's owners didn't seem to be aware of that weight limit when they spoke at a presser before the free fall first opened.
No, there's no weight limit.
Safety signage and or warning information is important for a guest to become familiar with so they can evaluate what is this ride in relation to me and or should I expose myself to this particular ride.
But Avery says Tyree wasn't made aware he wouldn't fit the ride because there was no signage posted about the weight limit. The state of Florida didn't require that signage, Avery says, because it wasn't a requirement from the ride's manufacturer. But Avery says the state should have posted the ride's weight limit anyway, in accordance with international amusement ride safety standards, the very same ones cited in Florida statute.
In there, it acknowledges ASTM as being the baseline.
Another issue that concerns Avery?
The redundancy, unfortunately, as we've learned, was just in the harness. So there was no secondary fail-safe system here.
No secondary restraint or seatbelt, despite the ride's manual specifically mentioning one. If Florida actually abided by the international safety standards it's adopted as law, Avery says the state would have required a hazard analysis for the freefall ride, which would have likely revealed the need for a secondary restraint. But Avery says Florida skirted that requirement thanks to vague statutory language.
There's language that talks about just general conformance. There's no room for general conformance in an affidavit when you're conducting these kinds of analysis. The standard is exacting, the requirements to comply are exacting, and safety is exacting.
Statistically, the likelihood of being killed or seriously injured on an amusement ride is low. But Avery says there's more the state of Florida could be doing to diminish the risk for future riders like Tyree.
You can't, in my opinion, rationalize away someone's death and or someone being severely injured. The ones that are impacted, they need a voice that says this can be prevented and here's how we can do so. So what are we waiting for?
And as we just heard from Commissioner Freed and Senator Thompson, what they hope will become the Tyree Sampson Law, they're hoping that will really flesh out some of these critical areas, some of these safety gaps, as we just heard described by the ride safety expert. One of those areas, training, was a great concern, and that is going to be addressed if this law moves forward, the Tyree Sampson Law. We've learned after reading through the expansive investigative report here from the state that one of the attendants on duty that night, it was only their third day on duty. So whether or not they had enough training, this proposed law would address that, put forth much more documentation, many more requirements. Again, these requirements, as the expert says that we just heard from the ride safety expert, they should already be being followed, given that Florida does have the ASTM, the international standards, in statute. But without these requirements explicitly spelled out in statute, Curtis, there's room still for improvement of safety of these rides.
But again, things looking good so far. We've had a gorgeous day out here on the Space Coast. Beautiful blue sky backdrop for this launch, which is set for just a couple of minutes from now.
Yeah, her last words before she ended her communications with Mission Control were, "Love and support make dreams come true." And honestly, that's a great sentiment, not only just in general for spaceflight, but for the three rookies on board, Nicole, Josh, and Anna. They've all joined their respective space agencies, Nicole and Josh with NASA, and Anna with Roscosmos about 10 years ago. Anna joined in 2012, and Nicole and Josh joined NASA in 2013, so they've been training for a long time. So they may be rookies going into space, but they're about as experienced as rookies possibly can be.
Yeah, they have definitely got the training beneath them and behind them, and now looking forward to the real thing on heading up to the International Space Station. Folks, we're going to go ahead and step aside as we're going to let the commentary take over as we see a SpaceX Falcon 9 with the Crew 5 mission, the Endurance capsule, and those 4 crew members on top, ready for its launch and mission to the International Space Station.